Hello and welcome. Today we're bringing you some of the spiciest moments from the cricketing world. Get ready for some high-stakes drama as we dive right in. First up, we have a heated exchange between two of India's fiercest competitors, Virat Kohli and Gautam Gambhir. Anyone who's ever watched them knows that they're the last people to shy away from a fight. During the 2013 IPL, Gambhir appeared to say something to Kohli just as the latter was dismissed. We don't know what it was, but it was enough to make Kohli turn around and head straight towards Gambhir. Verbals were exchanged and things might have gotten out of hand if players and the umpires hadn't intervened. Funnily enough, this wouldn't be the last on-field fight between the two, as they clashed once again during the 2023 IPL for entirely different reasons. It's fair to say there's no love lost between these two Indian legends. The first innings of the third 2025 series test between England and India had ended with the scores level. England had come out to face just the one over at the end of day 3, and the man with the ball in hand was Jasprit Bumrah. In a bid to derail the Indian momentum and slow things down, Zach Crawley decided to take his time on a couple of deliveries, a delay that frustrated Shubman Gill and his men. After letting their feelings known, play resumed, only for Crawley to cop one on the hand 2 balls later and stop playing again. While the physio rushed to the field, Gill seemingly mocked Crawley, to which the latter retorted, and Ben Duckett had to step in to calm things down. This was test match drama at its peak. Bumrah ended the day with a Jaffa, summing up the tense mood between the two sides. This series really was a treat to watch. The 2013-2014 Ashes was completely dominated by the Aussies, thanks to Mitchell Johnson and his intimidating handlebar moustache. During one of the matches where Australia was again on the brink of victory, Jimmy Anderson took offence to George Bailey's constant sledging. A seemingly respectful argument ensued, with the umpires eventually intervening to defuse the situation. It was at that point Michael Clarke showed up and expressed his displeasure at the fact that his team couldn't sledge the Englishman. So he told Anderson to get ready for a broken arm. A reasonable option from the Aussie captain: either let us sledge you or we'll have Mitch Johnson here snap your arm in half. And considering Johnson's form in that series, this was a real possibility. Luckily, no arms were broken and Anderson escaped this match with his limbs intact. We can't say the same about England's confidence though. Bangladeshi veteran Shakib Al Hasan has developed a reputation as an impulsive man of sorts over the years. Some of the incidents which have contributed to this image include one where he smacked a fan for getting too close to him, another where he tore the stumps out of the ground in a fit of rage, and this one where he successfully appealed for a timeout against Angela Matthews and then refused to withdraw the appeal. During the 2023 ODI World Cup, Matthews arrived at the crease to discover his helmet was broken. He went outside again to replace it, and that was enough for Shakib to warrant an appeal. He was well within his rights, but given the circumstances, the Bangladeshi legend surely could have made an exception. Matthews' pleas, however, fell on deaf ears, and he had no choice but to walk back, becoming the first ever batsman to be dismissed via a timed out in international cricket. Here we have an instance of unsportsmanlike conduct so awful it ended up changing the game forever. In the third final of the Benson and Hedges World Cup series between Australia and New Zealand, the Kiwis found themselves requiring 6 runs off the last ball. In a bizarre turn of events, Aussie captain Greg Chappell instructed his brother Trevor to bowl an underarm delivery. This tactic was employed to ensure victory for their side. The disappointment on the batter's face was evident. Even Aussie keeper Rodney Marsh seemed taken aback. But the umpires were informed. The decision was approved, and Trevor ended up bowling the worst possible delivery you'll ever see in the history of the game. This incident received global backlash and rightly tarnished the reputation of the Aussies as a fair team. Luckily, the ICC was quick to pounce on this outrageous bit of sportsmanship and ended up banning the underarm delivery permanently. Next up, we have a literal clash of kings. Two legends of the game, Sir Curtly Ambrose and Steve Waugh, went head-to-head during a test match between the West Indies and Australia in 1995. The Aussies had surprised the Windies with their aggression and fierce spirit in this series, but this aggression went too far in the third test, after Waugh made a comment that upset Ambrose. Waugh then proceeded to put fuel on an already raging fire by standing his ground when confronted, and that would be the last straw for Ambrose. The incident triggered a never-before-seen rage in the great man, so much so that in his own words, he was ready to beat up Waugh that day. Fortunately, he channeled his anger into a match-winning performance instead, taking 9 for 65 and ending the test within 3 days. The Australians are no doubt one of the most consistent performers in the game today, and they have been for quite some time. But their never-surrender attitude has resulted in some questionable incidents over the years. While it's clearly not one of those incidents, you'll probably figure out why Mahela Jayawardene was hesitant to leave after Michael Clark pulled off a stunner in the slips. Now, Jayawardene is not a man you associate with poor sportsmanship, but the catch Clark took here was a close one. It was millimeters from the ground, and that too one-handed. Given the Aussies' skipper history involving a couple of questionable catches, you could argue that Jayawardene was right to stick around for the replays here. The resulting conversation was very respectful, and the catch was no doubt a brilliant one, but you can't be too sure against the Aussies now, can you? During the same Ashes series where Mitchell Johnson and his moustache terrorised the Englishman, the Aussie quick found himself face-to-face with Kevin Pietersen over a rather annoying occurrence. It was a windy day and Pietersen kept pulling away just as Johnson was about to bowl, citing disturbances in the background. This obviously didn't sit well with Johnson, who finally threw the ball behind the wicket in disgust. Words were exchanged, but the Aussies didn't care much for KP's explanations. He instead spread out his arms to indicate how huge the side screen was, something that KP apparently didn't realise. On the next ball, some more pleasantries were exchanged as the Englishman crossed Johnson while taking a single. Nothing too serious, however. We understand where the bowler was coming from. We'd be annoyed too.
He keeps looking back at the side screen and saying, "Look how wide it is, mate. What are you doing pulling away?"
Virat Kohli has scored runs all across the globe. He's also had heated exchanges all across the globe. Whether it's the Aussies, the English, the South Africans or the Bangladeshis, this man does not hold back when expressing his feelings. During a test match against England, the modern-day legend was at it again with Johnny Bairstow. We don't know what was said, but a seemingly respectful conversation took a turn for the worse as Kohli kept getting increasingly animated, finally shushing Bairstow as they walked back to their places. It wasn't all that serious, but you could tell there was something going on between the two. Just the previous day, the two had been walking off the ground with their arms around each other. Funny how priorities change when you're playing on opposite sides. During the 2021 CPL, poor Kesrick Williams made the mistake of bringing out his notebook celebration after dismissing fellow countryman Chadwick Walton. The latter did not appreciate this one bit, and the next time they met he went on to destroy Williams in a brutal display of power hitting. What's worse is that each time Walton hit a boundary against Williams, he'd bring out his own notebook celebration, turning pages on the bat to record some receipts. It got so out of hand that the Windies man eventually ran out of imaginary papers and had to flip his bat so he could fill in the other side. And Williams' confidence took a plunge into the abyss as well because he started bowling no balls, as if he'd forgotten his run-up. Thankfully, the torture ended after just 10 overs, and the two men hugged it out after the match. That's probably the last time Williams celebrated against anyone in that fashion. The 2024-25 Border Gavaskar Trophy was an exciting affair. The second match saw Travis Head belt the Indians for a spectacular run of ball 140. The demolition job only came to an end after Mohammad Siraj executed a perfect Yorker that castled Head. But no hands were shook as a pumped-up Siraj started glaring at Head as if he'd just bowled him out for a duck. Head also responded in kind, and this resulted in some unpleasant sentences being exchanged between the two. The tension quickly died down as the Aussies walked back to a standing ovation while the umpires gave Siraj a little talk about his aggressive send-off. The Indian pacer had dropped Head earlier in the day, so his celebration was understandable, but come on man, the guy smacked you for 140 runs. A milder celebration might have been more appropriate. One of the wildest feuds in recent cricket history was between Marlon Samuels and Ben Stokes. The almost one-sided fight took a dramatic turn down the road when Samuels went off on Twitter, targeting the Englishman with some rather offensive words. But where did this all start? Right here during this test match between the Windies and England, when Samuels decided to give Stokes a comical send-off. As the dismissed batter was walking by, the Windies man took off his hat and gave a picture-perfect salute, holding his pose even as Stokes gave him a piece of his mind. The gesture didn't seem all that outrageous, but boy, no one knew it would turn into the mess it did a few years later. English legend Kevin Peterson landed himself in hot water in 2012 over a scandal that would redefine his career. Right before the final match of the Test series against South Africa that year, it was revealed that KP has sent some fishy messages to players in the South African camp, messages which included info on how to get Andrew Strauss out, and also one in particular calling him something we can't really say here. Now, it was public knowledge at the time that KP wasn't on the best of terms with the English Cricket Board. Throw that in with his South African heritage, it's easy to see why people were so quick to believe that KP might actually be guilty. The English players were beyond disappointed, especially Strauss, who was supposed to be celebrating his 100th international test match. Instead, he was caught up in a scandal that destroyed his relationship with his fellow countrymen. KP still denies the actual content of the messages to this day, but who knows what was actually said. He was immediately dropped from the team after that, but his return didn't last too long, ending permanently in 2014 after the board dropped him for the final time in his career. India mounted the comeback of a lifetime against England in 2025 to end the Test series 2-2. During the fourth Test, they seemed to be on the ropes, only for Shubman Gill, Ravindra Jadeja and Washington Sundar to spoil England's party with a century each. Once the Englishmen realised a win wasn't on the cards, they decided to shake the batter's hands and end the match. But Jadeja and Sundar were in no mood, instead opting to reach their respective centuries even if the match was going to end in a stalemate. This offended the hosts, who were tired and deflated by this point, and they resorted to all sorts of nonsense statements about how the batters should have scored quicker if they wanted 100. Stokes even tried to disregard the importance of the milestone by stating that he would have Harry Brook and Ben Duckett on to bowl. None of that mattered though. The batters went on to make their hundreds, the match ended in a draw, and India went on to win the next match as well. And lastly, we have an on-field fight between two of the most aggressive players from India and Pakistan. Gautam Gambhir and Shahid Afridi got into it during an ODI between the two rivals. Having smacked Afridi for 4, Gambhir abused Afridi, to which he got a similar response. The very next ball, he barged right into the Pakistani all-rounder while running down the pitch for a single. Things reached a boiling point as the two legends confronted each other in the middle of the pitch, dishing out verbals we can't mention here. The situation was quickly diffused, however, after Afridi gestured at Gambhir to take a hike, as they say, and the umpire walked in to make sure it stayed that way. Just one of the many exciting incidents we've seen during the Pak-India fixture. These two sides really know how to get it on. And there you have it, folks, some of our spiciest moments from the cricketing world. As always, be sure to like and subscribe for more crazy compilations from the gentleman's game.